I suppose that takes us on to sort of a Borussia Dortmund forecast then, and back to Marco Rose, because I mean we discussed the young players that Dortmund have, and I mean we could probably do an episode on them alone. I mean we certainly could, because there are just so many, and they're all so. I mean it's like
They're all lined up, just waiting, and be like, oh, they're probably just being like, I hope Sancho, Bellingham, and Holland will leave. So then we got the next lot up. When you hear like the Manchester United rumors over Sancho, you're just like, just skip him if he costs too much, and just go for Knauf instead. He's amazing.
well, they basically did that, didn't they? But just instead got Ahmad Traore. But yeah, I mean, it cost them probably about 40% of what Sancho would have. But yeah, I mean, we're not saying that Ahmad Traore is going to get 15 goals and 15 assists that next season. That's not what we're saying. But yeah, I know what you mean. Like there is just a conveyor belt of just players who are ready to step in. And I was really surprised when I sort of looked at the teams for the Manchester City quarterfinal, and I just saw Knauf there, and I thought, I mean, yeah, okay, fine. Edin Terzić clearly knows his stuff. He thinks that he's going to be ready to just be thrown in there. But I mean, even before we get onto the Haalands and the Reyners, and the Bellinghams, as you mentioned rightly so, the Knaufs. I mean, they, they just are so well stocked with young players. But I suppose for me, sort of from the outside looking in, I'm looking at that and I'm thinking, okay, Marco Rosa, he's worked wonders with Red Bull Salzburg. Admittedly, took some time to get off the ground, but started to do well there. He's done well with sort of players 24 and under at Gladbach. You know, if I'm Michael Zorc, I'm looking at that thinking, well, is Marco Rosa the man I need to galvanize this young team into genuine title contenders rather than the perpetual nearly men that they've come to be known post Klopp?
I don't know. I think there's loads of managers they could have gone, and I could have answered a little bit more coherently about it. Like, a part of me is like, if they wanted a genuine title contenders, uh, okay, they probably did go for Nagelsmann, couldn't get him.
Hmm.
Why not Adi Hütter? Just skip
Yeah, true.
them. Because look, he's a guy who obviously he did it in front of everyone. He was beating Dortmund at their own game. It's like, from my perspective, that would have been my next move. You either get the best, okay, the best said no, then you go to the second best who's beating you and beating your spot into the Champions League, who fits in the same sort of philosophy as well. You know, more Bundesliga experience, more actually doing it right now, same sort of players, more into youth, bringing them up, which makes me think, is he not a man manager? Is he not getting on with those people? Because to me, that's kind of crazy that there was someone better suited, and well, that more people better suited, and this was their pick in the end. Or maybe it was just too much money. I don't know. But yeah, unfortunately, I do feel like Rose is going to be another nearly men manager, only because he lacks the in possession tactics that he needs to actually challenge. And, the, there's a number of tactics that you could have taken to any team in the Bundesliga. You've got Wolfsburg's kind of a highly defensive structure, which works really well. Leipzig's just tactical flexibility. They don't have a out and out striker as they've wanted or had in Timo Werner, but has somehow mounted a title challenge. You've got Frankfurt, who's beating the best and has basically been the second best team since they got one of their losses earlier in this season. And instead, you've got the one that probably fails in the kind of plan A, a plan B in possession, and you can't win everything with counterattacks, because if you do that against the likes of Man City or Bayern, you're normally going to end up kind of on your ass.
Yeah, I think that's probably the most sophisticated way of putting it, because that is just that is just what happens. Like you just can't you can't help but, I mean, we've seen it a lot with Dortmund since they've taken Terzić in the interim role, but they do just forfeit possession a lot more. It does seem just so much more much less refined than when you're watching a Bayern Munich, for example, where everything's crisp and everything's sort of, and to be fair, to the same extent, Leipzig, everything is just so much more refined, to use the same word. Whereas with Dortmund, there's more room for error, and you do see that a little bit more. I think if from my estimation of it is that I think we'll probably see more of the Terzic style of Dortmund under Marco Rose than the Lucien Favre style, which yes, will probably make for entertaining football. I think that for anybody from a neutral perspective, will probably think that we saw the Gladbach games against Real Madrid in the Champions League this season. They were great fun from a neutral perspective, but if you were a fan on the edge of your seat or at the edge of your sofa, then I think you probably would have gone. You wouldn't need a nail file, put it that way. I think you'd say very similar sort of style at Dortmund, and that is actually I'm sort of taking that into account of they're going to keep Haaland and Sancho, which again looks unlikely given that they're going to have to breach a 7-8 point gap to Frankfurt in fourth. So I think the end of the Bundesliga season is certainly going to be very interesting to see where these three managers and three teams end up, because obviously we know that they'll be taking on different roles on the first game of next season. So it does make for certainly for off pitch antics. Does make for interesting reading, to say the least. But I just wanted to get finally on Dortmund. I wanted to get your thoughts on this. But hypothetically speaking, and as we've discussed, it's fairly unlikely. But if there were no major incomings and outgoings this summer at Dortmund, how would you see Marco Rose setting up this Dortmund team, as in the players who are there right now? In fact, the better way to phrase that is, if Marco Rose took over tomorrow and played in the next game,
Um,
how would Dortmund set up essentially? Do you see, from based on what you've seen at Gladbach?
I don't think it would be too far off what we're seeing with Terzic right now. I'm gonna go with, if there were no injuries, I think we'll see Hit, Guerrero, Hummels, Akanji, Mounier, then a two in front with Chan and Witzel, and then followed by the Sancho, Bellingham, Royce, Haaland. Um, I think that kind of fits his style pretty well, and it is very much what we've seen under Terzic. Um, Quite a lot, the kind of setup and style, but I don't really see how else he would set it up. I could see him go up to the younger players every now and then, bit more of Mukoku, a bit more of Reina, a few more of those like mixed around, especially for substitutions. But yeah, I think he kind of likes Rose has been playing that 4-2-3-1 quite a lot this season. Only a few times he's changed it to more of a back 3-5, 3-5-2, but I can't see him doing that when it probably suits him more to get more. Just it's just easier to build up play with that, and especially if you're coming from the back off a counter attack, or if you're trying to be more high intensity, then that's the kind of structure that you'll need with the players that he currently has.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of my that was roughly around my assessment of it, was that if you're looking at it sort of in depth, yes, of course. I mean you could arguably say that putting Rosa in instead of Terzic is perhaps the more fashionable, it's the sexier managerial signing. But you know, and believe me, hey, Marco Rosa, if I'm still looking that good at 46, then that's hey, that's not it's not exactly going to be bad going from me. But if just looking at sort of the two styles that they have, it, what are you gaining from sort of bringing in Rosa? Obviously, probably will be on more money. There's the greater expectation than bumping up the assistant. That it does make me question the decision. But as we've discussed, he's a name essentially.
Yeah.
So it's and he does have obviously the Salzburg pedigree, the attractive football pedigree. So